Jamaica Bay is the largest natural area left in New York City. 44 square miles of open water, salt marsh, and shoreline. A hotspot for biodiversity, the bay represents a peaceful oasis far away from the hectic metropole. But for much of the 20th century, this place was treated very differently. The city used the bay as a dumping ground for household trash, industrial waste, and storm debris. It even earned the nickname Garbage Bay. Those decades of pollution left a mark, and today the bay is both incredibly valuable and extremely vulnerable. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy exposed just how fragile this ecosystem had become. With the disappearance of marshes, the water hit Broad Channel and the Rockaway Peninsula in an unprecedented way.
It was probably the worst place to be during Hurricane Sandy. Many of the residents would probably agree with me. It's not that people's lives were in danger, but their homes were going to be damaged.
Well, I lost everything in this house. You're seeing now is all new. And I had about 5.5 feet of water right here in the living room came in. So everything had to be taken out and rebuilt.
An event that, combined with climate change and global warming, continues to have devastating consequences.
We have to be aware that things are changing. The seas are getting warmer, sea levels are rising, so we might have to expect more coastal storms, doing more damage to the coast. So many of the people that want to live here in the future have to build up, to get to allow for another storm of the size of, say, Sandy.
And the problem isn't just big storms. High tide can flood local streets. It's a clear sign that the bay's natural defenses aren't working.
Oh my God, it's worse today. Look.
People have to move their cars. They might not be able to get to the bus stop. They have to worry about water getting into their basement. And this is just a recurring problem that's going to keep happening. So it's something that I think people in this area have learned to live with. But nonetheless, it's an enduring consequence of climate change.
Over the past few decades, large sections of marsh, the bay's natural buffer, have broken apart and disappeared. This, combined with human intervention and an excess of nitrogen from wastewater, made the treatment plants struggle to handle the volume flowing into the bay, especially during storms, weakening the sediment, destabilizing plant roots, and causing the meshes to collapse.
Salt marsh can sequester a huge amount of carbon. The salt marshes in Jamaica Bay are estimated to be 13 feet deep, so they are a huge carbon sink. They also can sequester floodwaters at a rate of 1.5 million gallons per acre. And so that, plus the huge amount of species, the ecological richness, the biodiversity, which we know is also positive necessity for wildlife and for residents.
Last year, we basically have finished with a restoration project in the bay on 2 marshes, and we're waiting for the Corps of Engineers to come in and start the next marsh. And we're more vigilant about keeping an eye out for pollution in the bay.
A battle, however, that continues today and that foresees future improvements. One of the most important restoration efforts after Sandy was the rebuilding of the West Pond. The storm breached the barrier that separated the freshwater pond from the bay, turning it into a brackish lagoon. Then, in 2021, the creation of a living shoreline began.
There were 200,000 plugs of native marsh grasses that were planted, breakwaters made of oyster shells, made of recycled Christmas trees, which we still install every year, hundreds of Christmas trees, core logs. So we've continued to, year over year, monitor the health of the marsh grasses, and reinstall strategically breakwaters and replant where some of the marsh grasses have died off. And the good news is that it's working. We should have a freshwater pond here for years to come.
Bay water is better now than it was 20 years ago.
And that's just one example of how the community came together, the city came together, and yeah, made a change for the better.
Between Brooklyn, Queens, and the Atlantic, Jamaica Bay is a fragile boundary. A place where the relationship between the natural environment and the surrounding communities continues to shape both ecological conditions and local resilience.
That's a herring gull. Life is tough out there. Yep, started something.